Now, I have done a previous episode on AI, and this one I wanted to talk about, generative AI. This one I wanted to talk about my perspective of AI from usage in my company, the company I work for, how it affects me, how I see other people using it within my company, and what I think of it. Um, based on what I see, based on what I've experienced. Okay, so firstly, where do I start? I suppose I would start by saying that before AI came along, generative AI came along, before AI that could write software came along, I was perfectly happy. Thank you very much. I didn't need any AI stuff, and I still feel that way. I feel like I don't need AI. I don't need generative AI to help me do my job. I was quite happy doing it myself. And I would, if I got stuck, I would search for something on the internet, I'd find some help, I'd learn something, and then I'd carry on, like we all did. So the question is, do I use AI? Do I use generative AI in my job? And the answer, sadly, is yes, I do. And the reason I do is bizarre. Maybe it's weird. The reason I use it at work is because everyone else is using it at work. And because the code it writes, I really do not enjoy looking at. I think the code that it produces, the programming language it produces, is not very good. It's not very elegant. It's not very clear. It works sometimes, probably most of the time actually, but it's just not nice. And when you're trying to read somebody else's code that they've written, you get sort of like a feeling of what they were trying to do, or how they were trying to achieve something, and you can sort of see their style that they use. Like everyone's got their own way of doing things, and perhaps you can learn things from them, or maybe you can make some corrections or something like that. Maybe, sometimes I've even been able to spot, like looking through the code and thinking, I think I know who wrote that line, because maybe it wasn't very good. But with everyone using so much generative AI at my company, and they really are, my goodness me, the way they go on about it, you would think it was the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it's something, they just cannot get enough of it. Almost every day there's some chat about, there's this new AI tool that, and this new model came out, and I'm using this now, and this one's amazing, and then there's the messages like, like Claude, which is a programming tool from Anthropic. So this Claude, it's gone down. What are we going to do? We'll have to go to the pub. Can't do my work anymore. Can't do my job anymore. So there's these topics going on all the time, and there's so much AI usage, and I do not want to be bothered to deal with all of the code that's produced by these AI machines, by these AI machines, these large language models. So I'm using generative AI to avoid working with generative AI. I'm just going to call it Gen AI. It's too long saying generative all the time. So I'm using Gen AI to try and avoid working with Gen AI, which of course means that I'm working with Gen AI. I'm sorry if that's a very difficult sentence to understand. It's just crazy what's ended up happening. I'm just trying to use it to try and deal with it less, and I don't like using it, if I'm perfectly honest. It's just incredibly frustrating. Maybe I should be blaming myself. Maybe I'm not feeding it the right prompt, like the right instructions. But my goodness me, occasionally it will do what I've asked of it. So I'll ask it to do something, and it will do it. But then most of the time, it will do it, and I'll look at what it's done, and I'll think, yeah, but you've forgotten about this, or what about this, or you're not taking this into consideration, or you've just duplicated all of this work that didn't need to be done. It's just incredibly frustrating. It's like being a manager of someone who's got talent, right? So they're a junior developer. They've got talent. It's like they've read every book ever written about programming. But at the same time, they're a bit stupid. And then when you correct them, when you say, no, you shouldn't be doing that, it's better to do this, they'll say, oh, yes, you're quite right. And then 10 minutes later, they'll do the same thing again. So it is incredibly frustrating working with these things. And I'm not entirely sure that I'm any more productive. I think I'm either, I think it's maybe I'm a tiny bit faster, or I'm a tiny bit slower, or I'm just the same as before. But I mean, overall, it's a negative feeling for me. I know everyone in my company seems to absolutely enjoy, loves using them. Like it's almost like they're averse to the idea of doing work. It's like the last thing they actually want to do in their job is do their job. It's like I'm a programmer. I'm supposed to be writing code. That's the thing that I hate doing the most. Well, I mean, if you hate it that much, perhaps you're actually in the wrong job. So for them, this tool that will do their job for them in some cases is an amazingly wonderful thing. But for me, I used to take care. I used to have pride in the code that I had written. I used to want to make it work well and be efficient, work well for everyone, people with slow hardware or the latest hardware, latest laptops or whatever, or very, very old ones. So there'd be some sense of ownership of the things that I'd done, like in the same way that like if someone's built, I don't know, a beautiful piece of furniture or something, woodwork, a beautiful piece of furniture, and they're like, yeah, I'm proud I've done that. I'd have some sense of feeling proud over the things that I'd written. But if I'm not writing these things anymore, isn't it? That's gone. Absolutely, I'm not doing these things anymore. If I'm just asking a machine, can you do this for me, please? And then I look at what it's done and I think, oh dear, let's not look at that. It's just a very unpleasant feeling. So I feel more disconnected from my job now. I feel I enjoy my job less than I did before. I suppose I could stop using the generative AI. But then I wouldn't be able to step away from it anyway, because I couldn't get back. I'd still have to be dealing with it all the time because everyone else is using it. And I have to work on projects with other people. So I can't avoid seeing this nonsense that the AI produces, the generative AI produces, which is sad. I suppose the best thing that could happen for me is I move on to another project. I'm the only person working on that, and then I can just forget generative AI. I mean, I don't think I would stop using it entirely. I think it can be good for one or two things. So if I'm completely stuck, there's something I want to do, not a large amount of code, just a small amount, and I'll say, what's a way I can do this, and it will give me an example. Then I can look at that and think, yeah, okay, that's given me an idea, but I'd rather do it this way. So it could be useful for that, I suppose. I might be able to ask it to do something. So instead of making code, instead of generating it, I can say, can you change what's already there and change it like this? So then that's just being assistive then. It's not making anything, it's just sort of changing things. That could be useful. What else? What else might I use it for? Asking it, I suppose I could ask it to say, can you see any ways to improve the code I've written? So that's assistive as well, might give me some ideas, might spot something wrong with the code. That's useful. So yeah, using it like that, I've really not anything against where it's a tool that's assisting you and you're still doing most of the work. I think it could be good in that sense. I'm actually positive about that use, but I know humans, I know humanity and the ultimate laziness that we're all striving towards. I mean, sometimes I look at the television remote and I think, why does it exist? The remote control. Because I'm old enough to remember when my parents had a TV that didn't have a remote, and if you wanted to adjust the volume or the channel, you'd get up off your backside, and you'd walk to the TV and you'd press a button on the front, and then you'd go back and sit down, and it really wasn't that hard to do. It's getting up. It was a tiny bit of exercise, sitting back down. It wasn't a problem, and then we invented the remote control. It's like, now you don't have to get up. Now you don't have to walk 2 meters to change the channel, to change the volume. So yeah, sometimes I do think we're always chasing we're just becoming more and more lazy, really. Chasing laziness. But the end result, I mean, not talking about remote control anymore, but talking about generative AI and Gen AI and writing software, the end result, I suppose, is maybe something that's cheaper and not as good, but maybe good enough for most people. Sort of like what do they call it? Like fast fashion, or like these cheap clothing stores where you can buy. I mean, I'm nothing against cheap clothes. I like cheap clothes. I want cheap clothes, but I want cheap, good quality clothes, not cheap, bad quality clothes that sort of like fall apart after a month or look like you need to throw them away after a month. Yeah, maybe it's like that. Maybe it's you just end up with cheap code. But like I say, cheap clothes are very popular. I'm sure cheap code is going to be very popular too. So, yeah, I don't enjoy my job as much as I used to, and I've got no choice. I've got no way of escaping, unless, like I say, I moved on to another project. It's just me, and I'm just working on it myself. Then I can go back to normality again. I can go back to the job I used to enjoy. We'll see what happens in the future, I guess. But yes, at this point in time, my feelings about Gen AI and how it's being used at my company and how I feel like I've got little choice to use it, I suppose. It's not a positive thing for me. I don't know if it affects you as well. If it's creeping in, I mean, it affects all of us in some way. The amount of times that something's prompted me. Don't you want to use AI? Don't you want to get AI to rewrite this for you? Don't you think you should be using AI to search for this or whatever it is? Or, oh my goodness me, it's the most frustrating thing. So I think we're all, starting to feel the effects of it a bit. But I wonder if any of you listening are also seeing like big changes at work because of it, and how you feel about those. Anyway, until next time, I'm sure I'll cover this topic again at some point in the near future. So until then, bye-bye.